Welcome to Yoga Biz Camp with myself, Michael J. I'm a yoga business coach with 25 plus years of experience as a creative, a total tech geek, and a yoga business owner. Today I am thrilled to have Terri Fry joining me. And what I love about Terri, when she started her business, she started it with an exit plan. There is so much good information in this episode. Enjoy. Okay, I want to welcome Terri Fry today. I'm super happy to meet with her today and bring her to you. And I'm just going to read her bio here. Terri is a bundle of high energy, I will agree with that, with a DIY attitude who thrives on challenges. Her first words, according to her late mother, were, "I do myself." I love that. With the innate mindset. Terri isn't afraid of taking risks and trying new things. Terri's work life began at an early age, helping in a family-run business in Monterey, California. Her horizons and knowledge base expanded when she moved to San Francisco Bay Area and began her professional sales career working for a Fortune 500 company. A major life event motivated Terri to opt out of the corporate America and followed her passion for yoga. She left corporate America with no regrets, love that, and no looking in the rear view mirror to pursue a new career path as a yoga teacher. This was the springboard which propelled her onto the entrepreneurship path of yoga studio ownership. Having achieved all the goals Terri had set for the studio, she sold it in July, 2020. Yes, in the middle of a pandemic. Woo! Terri's next career chapter as a business consultant has begun. Putting her 30 years plus of experience to good use, Terri recently launched Sweat Drop Consulting, focusing on boutique yoga and fitness studios. Terri earned a Bachelor of Arts from the University of California at Santa Barbara and a Master of Arts in Organizational Management from the University of Phoenix. She holds numerous yoga training certificates, including one from the Yoga Alliance. Terri is also a certified mind-body business consultant. And when not doing yoga, Terri is an avid walker. She loves her Fitbit, a quilter, a great reader of historical fiction, and enjoys spending time with family. Welcome, Terri. I'm super happy to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. I'm excited to be here as well. I appreciate this opportunity.
So I really want to know so you started as a yoga teacher, but this is a business interview. So I really want to know, what was that moment that made you start a business, or for you, it was purchasing a business? What was that moment? How did that happen for you?
Well, that moment came in 2014. At that point, I had been almost teaching yoga for a decade. And those of you who are yoga teachers know that it's really challenging to support yourself as a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
It's almost nearly impossible. And I had done it, but I also had done some additional things. I was an independent sales rep for several boutique yoga clothing companies that helped support my income. But basically there was some a chain of events happened, and I found that my income suddenly diminished due to several factors. And so I decided to take the summer of 2014 off. My mom in California needed some help with some surgery. So I thought, great opportunity to sort of take a step back and assess where I was at and what I wanted to do moving forward. I was 53 at the time, and I hadn't put very much towards retirement. And I was to the point where it's like, I need to really start having a better plan for my future. Because unlike my mother, who has 4 kids, I don't have any kids. So I'm not going to have someone flying out to California to take care of me when I'm older. So that was a real motivating factor, was, okay, how do I essentially earn more income? And I thought about it throughout the summer as I was caring for my mom. And I just came to the realization that I thought about going back to corporate America. And I went, I just really didn't want to do that. And I love the freedom and flexibility of being a yoga teacher. I had a passion for what I was doing. I loved yoga. I really like to help people find what worked for them. And I also had a pretty good business background. So that summer, and I'm, unlike some of my colleagues, never became a yoga teacher with the goal of owning a yoga studio. Because as my bio mentioned, I grew up in small business. And I understand the ups and downs of a small business. I still remember several times my dad giving me my paycheck in one hand and $100 cash in the other hand and saying, don't cash this until Friday. Cash flow is a little slow right now. And if you need more, let me know. Don't, so, and how the business did was how the family went. Did we take a vacation during the summer? All those things. So, however, I got to the point where I want to be a little bit more control of my destiny. And it just worked out that the studio that I had been working at and managing since 2011, one of the owners had passed away, which was the reason why some of my income was diminished. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe I could buy a studio or open a studio. And what would that look like? At the same time, my friend Louise, who owned the studio I bought, was thinking it's time for her to sell. So it just sort of worked out that she was ready to buy, I was ready to sell. And like Rick Stollmeyer says a lot when he's talking about the fitness business, I basically took from my 401k. I took from my retirement to actually get the down payment for my studio. And then I borrowed and had a loan for the rest. And so that's really how it came to pass, was that how I bought my studio. Was I had been teaching and managing it, and the previous owner was ready to sell, and we were able to put a deal together. And I took ownership in January of 2015. So that was really sort of how that led to it. It was sort of a backdoor way of getting there. But yeah.
Well, this is what I really want to talk about today, because I think your story is really fantastic. It's very different to my story, and it's very different to what I think most yoga teachers who start a yoga business, they don't go into it with a mindset, right? They go in with the mindset of serving and wanting to do yoga, but they actually don't think about the business side of things. And it took me several years, even though I did well with gut instincts. So what you said to me was that you started the business with an exit plan. And that completely fascinates me. And I think so many people can learn from that, because now I coach studio businesses like yourself, and I'm coaching them to start, building a business to eventually be sellable. But you came into it with that mindset. Can you talk about that a little bit, and where did that mindset come from for you?
Well, absolutely. So I've been asked several times, when did you decide to sell your business? And I honestly can tell you, I decided to sell my business the day I bought it.
Yeah.
And because
I love that.
Again, starting a business or buying a business at 53 is, my priorities have changed. I still wanted to serve. However, I didn't have the luxury of someone in their 20s and the 30s. I needed to play catch up to really be able to have that nest egg, to be able to retire comfortably, later in life. So I knew from the day one that, and plus my studio was in New England. It was outside of Boston. And I don't have any family in New England. I ended up there very haphazardly. There's a whole nother story behind how I ended up. A girl from California ended up in, Chelmsford, Massachusetts, of all places. So I knew I wasn't going to stay in New England. So for me, when I bought the business, I knew my goal was to build it up, get it thriving, and sell it somewhere in the 8 to 10 year time frame. By the time I was in my early 60s, 65 and 80s. So I entered in with that mindset. And again, the reason why was I was older, and two, again, going back to my upbringing and seeing, my father ending up working till he was 70. And he admitted that he didn't really have a solid exit plan until much later. And so I just knew, and also I saw how studios struggled. And so, because, like a lot of yoga teachers, at one point I was driving to 5 or 6 different studios in New England to teach what I considered full time, which was anywhere from 12 to 15 classes a week. So I saw how studios were struggling, and, and I was just like, man, there's just gotta be a better way to do this. So when I started the studio, I was determined that I would treat it as a business, because I'd seen, yes, a lot of it's heart leading, but you can be heart leading and be of service, and at the same time be a successful and profitable business. Because the thing is if you're not successful and profitable and stressful, and you end up having to close your doors or file bankruptcy, that doesn't serve anybody, right? So breath is part of yoga, right? And that feeds our body. So what is breath for a business? Profitability.
Yeah.
Profitability is what feeds a business. And notice I'm saying profitability. I'm not saying making money. I'm saying profitable, because we all know you can have tremendous income. And I'm sure we all know people who make a lot of money. I used to be that way, made a lot of money, but guess what? I spent a lot of money and I was always in debt. My credit cards were racked up back in my corporate sales days, right? Because I had to look and dress the part. Right? I'd go into Nordstrom's and drop $500, no problem. And then my credit card debt was outrageous. So it's like, so it's not just about sales. It's about your net income.
Yeah.
And it's about your net income, EBIT, earnings before income tax. What are you making? And that's your profitability. And so that's what I wanted to focus on.
Did you have other examples of successful, profitable yoga studios? Because I think there was a time where yoga studios didn't run on a business model, but then there was a switch. I think and I think Mind Body had a lot to do with that, with education and
Mind Body definitely, So yes, I did early on, and that's the other thing that is very important too, is having a business mentor or a business coach, which I had all through the 5+ years I owned my studio. But I had a mentor that I had known from before when I first started practicing yoga back in the Bay Area. And she had run, she and her husband both had run and sold and opened and sold and numerous, I think they're on studio number 8 right now. And they like to get them going, sell them up, build them up, and then sell them, and then go on to the next thing. So I knew it was possible. And I certainly, one of the things that really helped me is when I bought the studio, I like to say we literally were on a punch card system. We had an index card box.
Me too.
A to Z. And exactly. So
a lot of people don't realize that's where the name Punch Pass came from. We actually had punch passes and staff to track the punches.
Yes, exactly. And so that was, I knew that was pretty antiquated. And so that was one of my first big projects, was to figure out what business software I wanted to go with. And I mean, I'll be honest, I looked at least half a dozen, because I had used Mind Body at other studios, but I wanted to look at all of them. And at the end of the day, I went with Mind Body. Yes, is it expensive? You could say it's expensive, but let me tell you, the value of Mind Body is makes it, in my opinion, makes it priceless. Because a lot of the things I learned about streamlining yoga studio and how to make it work is Mind Body. Mind Body University is one of the best kept secrets in the industry. It's literally give you the blueprint to how to run it successful, but based on best practices, based on all the data they have. And so, like you said, intuitively I knew some of this stuff, but just putting it into play, it really helped me kind of execute, put everything into play.
Yeah, similar to you, Mind Body Bold was my first experience to Mind Body. And that's where I came out of there going, oh, wow, other people are making a business out of this. Right. And so that education, and so that, I think that did a lot for businesses to have a profit mindset for sure, and putting systems in place. So when you purchased the business, did it have systems in place, or?
It had some systems in place. Granted, they were, very not fully fleshed out. And I will say to the previous owners is that when they opened the studio in September 2011, 6 weeks later, one of the owners was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. So for the first 2 years of the studio, it was just, oh my gosh, we've got this business, we got to keep. And so it's a real testament to them that when I bought it, it was at least breaking even, right? It wasn't making any, but it was a solid. I knew it was a solid business. So they had some very, very simple structures in place, like events calendars, and they did have an intro offer, and but nothing was really just simply because of everything that was happening with his, with Norman, the previous owner. So I was able. There was a little bit of a foundation. And so I just took that and I did build on it. And again, plugging into Mind Body really helped with that, with the intro offer to membership. And that truly is when things really started taking off, is obviously that the recurring revenue is. And that's how I would look at things. It's like, okay, I want to do X and it costs this much money. How many memberships do I have to get to pay for that?
Yes.
And so that was always an overriding way I made business decisions about whether I should invest in something. It's like, what's my yield going to be? And so when I set out with the studio, I had a 5-year plan of where I wanted the studio to be revenue wise, where I wanted to be profitability wise, how many members I wanted to have, all of that stuff. And I had those sort of benchmarks, and some of those numbers I just kind of pulled out of the air. I was just like, okay, what could I potentially do? And now I know actually how to reverse engineer that. There is a formula you can actually reverse engineer it. And I guess intuitively I knew that because it ended up kind of being where it was at when I actually hit that goal in year 5. Yeah. So
and you hired a coach during that period, and I had 2 coaches and now you and I both Mind Body certified consultants, and so people hire us for what we needed back then. So what was the thing that made you hire a coach? What was that thing that made you take that step?
So that's a great question. And this was 2017. So I'd had the studio for just about 2 years. And the first couple of years I was seeing really steady growth and was doing really well. But then in the 2017, things started to slow down a bit. And that was because I realized, hindsight, right? Actually it was in hindsight, I realized this, is that I was doing too much. I had, in the beginning, I did everything. And the studio had, from 2015, it had doubled 2 times. It doubled in 2016 and it doubled again in 2017. So it was like, I had a lot on my plate. And so there were a lot of cracks. The process was good when it was a little simpler, but now that the capacity and the volume was increasing, the holes in the system were starting to show. And I just was so swamped and overwhelmed just trying to do the data. I was like, okay, I'm not going to get this done. And so when I sat down in June of 2017, I was reviewing my numbers for the year for the first 2 quarters. And I was looking towards the end. I knew I wasn't going to hit my goal. Now, my goal is my goal. It's just me. But it's like, darn it, I set that goal. I wanted to hit it. I wanted to achieve it. And I realized that I needed help. And again, through Mind Body, I got to know some of the consultants. And then actually Mind Body has their own private network called Mind Body One, which is a private community that you and I both participate in Mind Body Clients. And I've gotten to know several consultants. And one of them I just really resonated, and I just reached out to her. And it's kind of funny. She thought I was just wanting to chit chat about something, but I just literally said, okay, this is what needs to be done. And part of it was because I had signed up to go to a teacher training in Bali in the fall. And I was like, okay, if this stuff isn't done, then the year's over. Right. It's like, I'm not going to. So we just worked really hard. And that's really what helped get things really dialed in. And again, could I have done it on my own? Absolutely. But was I doing it? No. Did I know how to do it? Yes. Was I doing it? No. And I think the biggest thing that a coach does for you is they provide that accountability, that checking in. Obviously, I still need to do the work. But it was having that person that, oh my gosh, and I was always the kid that was doing their homework, the night before it was due. So literally, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have my call with Crystal. I got to get all this stuff done. But just knowing that I had,
because you're paying for it too.
I'm paying for it too, right? And worth every penny. And that's really what the turning point was. It was like my business was doing all right, but it wasn't good. It's like all of a sudden it just sort of started to slow down. And again, I looked in the mirror. I said, okay, what are you going to do? It's like, it's nobody's fault but yours. You've got to, and it's like, and so that's when I hired my coach and had her all the way through till I sold the studio. I continued to work with her all the way through until I sold my studio. And it was great.
And so
I
you
was,
through that you put more systems in place, I imagine, right? So can you tell me just a rough idea of some of the systems that really made a difference to building a profitable, sellable business?
so one of them was, several of them was really narrowing in and really honing in on the intro offer
Yeah,
to membership
conversion.
conversion,
Yeah,
and looking at your KPIs, your known performance indicators,
yeah,
and really looking at that piece of it every month and say, okay, what's our retention rate? What's our first visit, no return?
yeah.
All of those numbers, and then seeing where the holes were, and then putting a system in place to be able to plug that hole. So we noticed that we were doing pretty well with the conversion to the membership. That was getting really solid. But then we noticed that there was starting to be a fall off on the memberships, around month 6 or 7. And I should say we were a hot yoga studio. So that is pretty endemic in a hot yoga studio. I think it's probably the same in a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
And so we realized, okay, we need a membership retention. So then we started putting in place basically a whole first year membership nurturing campaign to get, because if you get people beyond that first year, then usually it's become such a practice and such a routine for them, and they've worked it into their schedule that they'll keep going. And then after that, we then had a whole process to move from, one of the things is you're trying to move your clients up to get their lifetime value. And so if they have a class card, trying to move them to membership, the monthly membership, then we started, because we had that so dialed in, we did a yearly membership. And again, there's pros and cons to yearly membership.
Absolutely.
The thing I would caution with you have to be able to balance a yearly membership with enough monthly memberships and be very disciplined about that yearly membership. Because if you're taking in a huge influx of cash at one time, and let's just say you're taking in $50,000-$60,000 in one chunk, you got to realize that is for future services. So you got to make sure that you're parsing
it's a liability to the business.
It's a liability to the business. So you've got to make sure that you're not using that all to pay off a credit card debt.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden 3 months into it, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have. So if you're only having annuals, that's not such a good thing. So you still want that monthly reoccurring, but it's a way you've got the people, it's like a whole pipeline moving towards this ultimate arc and their lifetime process. And then to keep those people happy, then I also instituted a rewards program through Perkville, and that really helped tie people back to, in fact, I just posted in Mind Body One when they hit 1,000 classes. So we had milestone visits for the longevity. If you hit so many classes, and we had what we call the wall of success, and I got one of those little, Polaroid cameras that take the little credit card size. We take their picture, we put it up there. I got actually at Bold a couple of years ago, they had the My Intent bracelets. So I bought the My Intent bracelet kit. They were doing a promo on it. And so when they hit a certain number of classes, they could pick a word, and we would stamp that on their bracelet. So we had a whole procedure for the rewards program. We also, the other thing that really helped was front desk staff. So for the first few years, I didn't have front desk. So that was getting a front desk staff person, and that whole process of and having them be actual salespeople. So sales scripts.
So training them,
doing all of that. That really, again, because I was doing a lot of that, again, my background sales. If anybody ever wants anybody to work their front desk.
Yeah, me too. I was good at that too.
I was good at it. I was great at it. I mean, it's just in my DNA, right? And I love to work, but I realized, I can't be at the studio all the time. So I need to have people and teachers just aren't going to cut it. Let's just.
And it's not natural for everybody, right?
Yeah. No. I hired for sales. I hired for sales. That was what the job description was sales, and then they would do the front desk stuff. So getting job descriptions. One of the things I had started to work on was I got to the point where was going to hire a manager. That was the next big piece of that. So, having all of those things in place, and, if you could have them at the beginning, great. But sometimes you just have to kind of grow into them. But basically, anytime you find yourself doing something more than once, you should have an SO, a standard operating procedure for it. And that's what my coach helped me do, because I'm not so great at I can help other people do it, but don't ask me to do it. Right. It's, always do as I say, not as I do. So those are some of the things.
Let's talk about that. That's the operation manual, basically, to run your business. And within that, it's like literally I work with everybody on this. I think it's the most important thing is putting those procedures in place and having it in a binder, it's a live document that changes.
It's a live document, yeah.
And then when you sell, it's literally you hand over the Bible to how it's run, right? It's
exactly.
Did you have your staff? Did you train your staff as well to sell, or did you keep that as the teachers? Were they separate?
I would do a few things. I realized that I was an anomaly as a yoga teacher, and that I could sell, and I love to do it. Most yoga teachers don't. And so I realized early on that I couldn't expect them to, but there were a few simple things, like in terms of the intro offer. It's like if someone new comes in, you don't say, well, do you want to do a drop-in? I would just like fingers on the chalkboard, right? So it's like, what are you going to say, so that everybody was saying the same thing, simple as, hey, Michael, what most of our new students do is our introductory offer. It's $3 for the first 3 days. You can come as much as you want. You get a mat and towel. And shut up. And then, okay, yeah, let me sign you up for that. Instead of, because I would hear that, and this took some training. It's like they want to say, well, do you want to do our intro offer or drop in? And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop saying that. So simple things like that. The other one is, and some teachers were better at this than others, is a simple thing like you do have a 10 class card, let's say. Not everybody's going to be a candidate for membership. Yeah. But, they come in routinely, maybe it's only once a week, but they come in, or maybe they come twice a month, but they come all the time. And I had, especially people that did like other sports, like triathletes and marathoners and stuff, we would be like their active recovery day. So I didn't want to disclude them. I wanted them to feel like part of the community. So, maybe 10 card and a simple thing like, hey, Michael, you used your last class today. Can I hit you up for your next 10 pack?
Yeah.
Or, I was always, hey, Michael, you only have 2 classes left on your 10 pack. Should I hit you up for your next 10 pack? And because we stored everybody's credit card, 9 times out of 10, people say, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah. And some people were better at that than others, right? And it just, I was more adamant on getting the new students to do the intro offer, because I knew if they did the intro offer, our retention rate, we had gotten our retention rate pretty high.
I always said that people, if you came as a drop-in, somebody is judging your entire business on that one experience, and they might not connect to that teacher, as opposed to giving them an opportunity to try it all you can eat, try it all, so you get a full.
That's exactly why I stopped selling drop-ins online. I stopped selling drop-ins online. If someone wanted to do a drop-in, they actually had to come to the studio, and 9 out of 10. Now, sometimes if someone was visiting, then they're just going to do a drop-in. Yeah. But that way, and then also truthfully, I was getting to the point where a lot of my classes were at capacity with wait lists. This is pre-pandemic, right? The studio was humming. We were running about on average 70-75% capacity in almost all our classes. And so I didn't want a drop-in person taking a spot from a member. Yes. Yeah. Right. Or someone who was, involved in, whether it was a member or like a 10 class card or something like that. So I strategically and that's all part of what, to the profitability, I strategically chose not to sell drop-ins. In fact, I kept raising the price of my drop-in to discourage it. Right. We were like in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, which you look it up, is about 30 miles outside of Boston. My drop-in was $30. Yeah. And people were like, how did you, I went, because I just kept raising it. Right. Yeah. And it's like, it's a drop-in. It's a drop-in,
So can we stop here and just emphasize that drop-in is not the way we want to go for the listeners and viewers, right? Yeah, drop-in is the last sale.
The last sale you want to make.
It's not the one, it is the one that if somebody's just coming out of town, but it is not. And the easy upsell for that, for me, it was always, for the price of two
Right.
drop-ins, you can get a 1 month unlimited to try it
Right.
out, right? So
And then we would also, particularly with hot yoga, because there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, we'd say, hey, and this was what I tell my teachers. I train my teachers to say, hey, we get it, Michael. How about this? Take the class, give me your car keys or give me your credit card, take the class, and then decide afterwards. Because we take the credit card and the car keys, not because we didn't trust them. It's like people would come out in yoga brain and they would leave, right? They would
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
so they can't leave if we have their car keys. And so then
I love that.
99.9% of the time, people would, oh my God, that was so awesome. We'd sign them up right there. So that was one, how you could overcome that, is just say, hey, I get it. It can be, some people are intimidated at first. Take the class, and then you can decide afterwards. And that was a good strategy. And the other thing that in all of this too was looking at, I just want to say about the profitability part of it. The one piece that really started dialing that in, there's a fabulous book out there called Profit First.
Yep.
And I was actually given to me by my coach. It was one of the best things. And
I know she loves that book.
Yeah. And I started to implement, I implemented the strategies in there. And so that was a real game changer as well.
And for those that don't know that's about putting a portion of your profits aside, correct?
Yeah. It's basically what, in a nutshell, usually when you're looking at it's revenue minus expenses equals profit, right? That's the standard tried and true accounting principle. In Profit First, it's profit minus revenue, or profit, it's been a while since it's profit minus expenses. So you put profit first. So in other words, if you make $100, and there's formulas in there, and you have a percentage, you want so much percentage goes to profit, so much percentage goes to payroll, so much, there's five, basically the top five, and then you assign a percentage to it. So if you said, okay, I'm going to put 10% to profit. So the first thing you do, if you have $100, you take $10 and you put it in profit. And then you have $90 to figure out the expenses. Yeah. And if your expenses are $110, you don't take that $10. No, you keep that in the profit account. And then you figure out, how do I reduce my expenses to be in line with that? And that's a very, very simplified version, but it makes, and the other thing is part of my exit strategy is making sure that your books are good. Setting up your chart of accounts. Pay yourself.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, hear that one. Yeah, hear that one. Pay yourself. And so let's go to the exit strategy. 2020, pandemic year. And, against all odds, you sold a business. And I imagine that is because you proved in your books that you made profit and you created community. And so you had something viable and sellable. And I think a lot of people don't go into the business thinking about that, but you went into the business this way. So I know I went solo selling my studio, which, was kind of a painful process. And I know on my other interview, the other episode, Mitch McGinley, a fellow friend of ours, he held your hand through this. He was your coach through selling your studio.
Yeah. I know people have sold their businesses, but solo, Mitch was invaluable. And I should say that I actually had sold my business in at the end of 2019. We signed the purchase offer, and we were supposed to close March 18th. And we had to shut down March 15th.
Yeah, wow.
And so that original purchaser got very cold feet. And, I don't blame them. Long story short, they backed out. Yeah. And Mitch didn't despair. We hunkered back down. And it's like the goal was just because at that point I had decided, and the reason I decided to sell back in 2019 is, as I said, I had hit all my goals. And it was a little bit earlier than I had thought, but with and just personally, with the death of my mother in 2019, I realized I really wanted to be closer to family. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell my business. And because the best time to sell your business is when it's at the top, when you're really profitable, which I was in 2019 and in 2020. So it's like I reached out, suggested I reach out to Mitch, and I did. And so it was very easy for us to get it going because my financials were up to date. I had a strong P&L. The other thing is I had no debts because of using Profit First and making sure that my business was profitable. I had paid off my business loan 14 months early. I had zero debt. And on my P&L, there was owner's income because I paid myself, I was a corporation, so I paid myself as a W-2 employee. So that way I took taxes out of my own pay, so I was an employee of my corporation. The other advantage to that was I was able to set up an owner-only 401k plan. So I actually made contributions to a 401k, and my employer, Fry Hot Yoga, who knew I had the best last name for a hot yoga studio, Fry Hot Yoga, did a matching contribution, which was an expense deduction for the business. Yeah, I also was able to set up a group health plan. And so that came through as a payroll deduction again from the business. So all of that showed on my P&L. It showed all of those things. Not only here's my salary that I paid myself, right, of X. Yep. Here is here's the 401k contribution. Here is the insurance, the health insurance compensation. And we all know that health insurance is worth a good, depending on where you're at, a good anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 a year.
Yeah. That's super smart, Terri. That is so smart. And also, when someone goes to buy and they see all of that on the books, right?
Yeah.
That's so, and they can actually visualize that I can pay myself out of this. And,
right.
And also, and you have sold your business and now you've purchased a house from it. And, profit works, right?
Profit works. And granted, when we did sell the studio, and the other thing that helped sell it in the pandemic was, granted, we did not sell, I'll be honest, we did not sell it for what we had originally had original purchase agreement. And that I had reconciled myself to that fact. If I had wanted to hang on to the studio, I know that within a couple of years, it would have been right back up there and I could have sold. But I had already sort of made that transition that mentally, this is what I wanted mentally and had started to do. So it's like, okay, this is really what I want to do. Plus my lease was coming up would have been due this year. And I really didn't want to have to negotiate because I knew I didn't want to go another 5 years, right? So it was like, so it still made sense. And because of the memberships, right? Because I had such strong memberships and I had such a phenomenal first quarter of 2020 up until the pandemic, I was running 40% ahead of 2019 for the first quarter of 2020, and 2019 was 32% ahead of 2018, so it was like I was still going gangbusters. And then after we shut down, boom, immediately spun and went to a live stream platform, thanks to FitGrid, because they launched that first. And then my body did the on-demand, and I did with that. So I had the on-demand, the live streaming, I had the memberships. When I sold the business, it was still profitable. I was still making a profit. It was small, yes, but I didn't have to, do anything wild. I was still able to pay that was the other thing, because I had the money in the bank. I was still able to pay all my expenses. I was able to pay my teachers. I was able to pay myself. And so when I eventually did sell the studio, granted, it wasn't as much as I had, but it was still, once the lawyer was paid and the commission was paid, that was all pure profit. That wouldn't, and like I said, that was the down payment for my house, and has been, supported me for I took a 6-month sabbatical to decompress and then starting up my consulting business. So all in all, I'm really happy with that. And it was because of all of the stuff.
Worked.
Yeah. And the exit plan worked. Even in the middle of a pandemic. Yes. Did I have to adjust what I was going to get out of the studio? Absolutely. Could I kept going? Yes, I could. But at the end of the day, when we looked and did the math, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm good with this because I want to do this now. Yeah. But it was because of all that work I had done from day one that enabled me to sell the studio last summer and make money and walk away debt free. So it was,
Terri, I think we'll come to an end here, but I think that you are the perfect person to be a consultant because, I do think, you've been in the clients that you have now, you've been in their shoes in every sense, right? And we both know that all those systems and creating profit is the magic formula for building
Oh, absolutely.
a business. I want to finish with a few fun questions that I like to
Okay.
end with. It's just a personal thing, something about you that most people wouldn't know.
That I met Pope John Paul II and Clint Eastwood on the same day. How about that? Yeah, pretty cool.
On the same day, not in the same room?
Not on the same day. I met Pope John Paul II and I met Clint Eastwood at the same event on the same day.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool.
If anybody wants to, you can look me on Facebook. You want to ask me, or you can send me an email, and I'll tell you how that actually worked, how that actually came to be. I'll leave it at that.
All right. And I always like to ask, what's your business-wise, what would you, a business tool, website, or app, something that you kind of can't live without for running your business? Is there anything in particular?
Well, beyond MindBody, beyond the business software, there were a couple of key ones that I love, and it's more than one, but I love the MindBody app for business because I could,
the business app.
The business app. The other apps that I loved was I use FitGrid. They have an awesome app, a company called SubSync, relatively new. I signed up with them. They just came on board, but they manage your teacher substitution. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, because that was a huge headache, was managing teacher subs. So that was a great tool. And then I used, Perkfill as my rewards program. They were awesome, and that I really loved.
And they integrate with MindBody.
And they all integrate with MindBody, and then of course MindBody Bold, MindBody One, MindBody. Yes, I am a MindBody One champion because I just believe in the power of that. Yeah. Not just the product, of the people and the support that they give.
It is a great community. Yeah,
it's a great community. Yeah, and so those are some of the ones that I used regularly, that were on my phone and I used all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
And then for your personal fun app website, is there anything where you hang out a lot?
There's an app called Elevate, Elevate. Yeah. It's a mind game app. You have to pay for it. It's like, I don't know, $6 or $7 a year. And they help you with things in 4 key areas. It's in written, verbal, math, and speaking. And so I realized with all of these tools,
that's fun for you.
It is fun for me because what I realized is that with all the spell checker and grammar checker stuff like this, it's embarrassing. I don't know how to parse a set. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. And so they have these wonderful games that you play and you get points for them. It's all gamified. I'm a total gamification person. And you get levels and you unlock different things and it helps you build.
Okay. I got to write that one down.
It's really, really cool. And I'm on a 142-day streak right now. It's part of my morning routine. And I like it because it flexes my brain power. It's like, okay, when was the last time you actually did multiplication or division without a calculator? Right? When was the last time you actually did proportions where it's 40% is how much, what fraction is that? What does that represent? When was the last time you had to figure out, do I use a semicolon or a colon there? When was the last time you had to skim an article and say, okay, what are the salient points? So it also really does help you in your day-to-day communications. Like my words per minute, how much quick I can read has improved. My skimming ability to skim articles and get the salient details out of it have improved. So there really is some personal and business benefit to it. It's my favorite. It's like my favorite little.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that out because I use my phone for math now. I just ask Siri, hey Siri. Yeah. And I get it. I don't even look at my phone for that now.
Yeah, it's Elevate, Elevate. It's in the App Store. It's fun. I like it. What can I say?
Terri, last, how do people contact you?
Well, I would love to say eventually I'll be able to go to sweatdropconsulting.com on the internet. My website is being built right now, but Terri, Terri at sweatdropconsulting.com. You can have there, or I'm on LinkedIn. You can hit me up in LinkedIn and Terri Fry. I do have a Facebook page for the Sweat Drop Consulting. Not a lot in there right now, but probably the best way is either LinkedIn or via email.
And for the Mind Body folks, there is a community called Mind Body One, which is a support forum, and Terri is very active in there.
Yeah.
So much for your time today. Thank you for sharing your story. I think so many people can really learn from this. And I enjoy you and respect you. And I just, I think you have a lot to help people with. So thank you so much. Community has always been a very important part of my success. And this podcast episode is brought to you by my brand new project, which has just launched, and it is a free community space for yoga businesses. It's by invite only, and it is serving the solo yogapreneur and the yoga studio. And in this space, I will be offering up free campsite chats, question and answers, where you can come in monthly and have a chat with me in a group coaching session, no charge at all. And this is where you can come and have a chat and get some extra resources. I will also be posting all of my resources in here as well. And I'm going to invite you, if this sounds like you are serious about getting your business to the next level, I'm going to invite you to check it out at yogabizcamp.com, and I hope to see you on the inside. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on our podcast. It really helps us out a lot. Thanks a million.